Hello, and welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, and our guest today is Tully O'Connor. What a great name for a human, isn't it? Tully O'Connor, who is that? If you've never heard of Tully, he has a Thriving in Fatherhood podcast. He's got a Substack. He's got a relationship masterclass, and he's got two kids. He's got a partner, and this guy is devoted to helping people thrive in family. And this conversation continues this little batch of podcasts where I am focused on talking to experts in parenting, birthing, and raising tiny humans. Tully and I dive into this idea of thriving in fatherhood. We talk about what it means to thrive while being a parent. And we also talk about the other side of that, which is what he describes as the glorious burden of fatherhood. How do we get the support that we need? How do we keep a sparkle in our eye? How do we deal with unmet expectations and prevent them from turning into resentment? What does it mean to thrive in fatherhood? And so thus far, I have spoken with midwives and research scientists related to baby sleep and lactation and all kinds of things. I thought it would be important to hear from the other side. What is it like to be a dad? I don't know, but I'm about to find out. So this conversation with Tully was great. He also has a wonderful Australian accent, which is amazing. And we just jam. We have very similar personalities, similar senses of humor. This is a fun one, it's a lighthearted one, but we also dive deep and explore some really big topics and ideas that are profound and have the potential to really shift how we parent humans and how we show up for ourselves and our partners. So it's a big episode, it's a fun episode. Thank you for being here. As always, there are links in the show notes to everything that Tully O'Connor offers. But for now, just sit back, relax, grab a pen and paper, a cup of tea, and enjoy this conversation that I had with Tully O'Connor. Tully O'Connor. Tully O'Connor, welcome to the podcast, man. I'm stoked to jam with you about all the things, but I just mentioned, I want to give some background context so you and the listener gets it. My partner's due to have a baby in 9 days, and I basically have hijacked my own platform recently with the podcast and have just sought out parenting people and breastfeeding people and midwife elders to pick their brains about birth and postpartum life. And you have been orbiting my field for years now. We have some mutual friends, and you're a good dude who teaches men how to do lots of stuff. You're a father of two young children, and so I'm keen to dive into your world and your teaching all about fatherhood, and selfishly to try to get my head around it and my heart in a place that feels ready, or quote unquote.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to those listening that don't know you, that are like, who's Tully O'Connor other than a very beautifully named man? Like who are you? What's your deal? What do you do?
Yeah, nice one, man. Excited to be here because yeah, we have been circling each other's fields for a little bit. Few mutual friends, and I see your stuff popping up and love what you do. Um, so me, who am I? Big question. I think you encapsulated it. Like, I'm a father, I'm a man, a father, a husband, and then I happen to do some work in the sort of men's work and relationship space primarily. Um, but kind of fell into the work. I didn't set out to be a coach. I've been doing it for 7, 8 years, and back when I started, I didn't even really know coaching was a thing. So for me, it's always been about self exploration and sorting my shit out so I can be the best man, dad, partner I can be. Um, but yeah, I've got two young boys, he's 4 and 4 months, my son Rafi, and my other son is one in about 4 or 5 days, which is a wild thought because I feel like he was born last week. and now he's one. I'm not sure how that works, but so that's a big part of my life at the moment. I work as much as I need to spend as much time as my family with I can.
Yeah, I've heard that from many different individuals that like time changes once you have a
Oh,
baby and that it's just like, oh, they're walking and talking. What happened? Where did they go?
yeah, especially number
Some,
two. Number two,
yeah,
it's been a different, a different beast.
yeah.
Because you're so preoccupied with the turbo number one. That number two is just kind of like doing their thing. And for Rafi, every week what are the developments this week? What's happening in his brain? And you're so attuned to it all because there's just one of them. And then number two, it's like, oh, he's walking now. When did that happen? Like, it just happens.
Yeah. First one you're like eagerly anticipating with the video ready to get the first
Yeah,
step.
yeah,
Second one's
yeah.
like driving. Like, hey,
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
How'd
yeah.
that go?
Doing my taxes for me and just
Yeah,
what happened there?
mate. All right. Well, I wanted to start with fatherhood and probably
Mm,
just jam into fatherhood. But I noticed when I was doing some research on your work that you have a podcast called Thriving in Fatherhood,
hmm.
which I love because I heard that and I was like, I want to thrive. Like, how do I thrive in fatherhood? That seems like a good question to ask Tully. And then
Yeah.
as I was going through your Instagram, I saw another post that referenced the quote glorious burden of fatherhood. And you have a quote that says, if you feel the weight of responsibility, if it feels hard, if you're unsure how to make it all work, if you're missing the mark, it means you're treating it with the respect that it deserves. So, I guess to start, man, where do you want to dive into that? How do we get from this burden of fatherhood to a place of thriving in fatherhood?
Mm, great
From
question.
the
Um,
context of a dude that's like about to go through the portal. It's
yeah,
like, hey,
I
bro,
think,
throw me a bone here.
yeah. Tell me, give me the panacea. Um, I guess, yeah. For context, thriving in fatherhood as a podcast name, it definitely wasn't I've figured this out and I shall share the bounty with those willing to listen. It was
Oh,
this
well,
is
we
what I
should
want to
we should
do.
just cut the interview here then, man. I
Wait,
was
you're not
told,
going to give me the answer?
yeah.
So yeah, it's been like an exploration because it's like for me, I always knew I wanted to be dad. Like I was thinking about how life was going to look as a father, as a parent, like 5 years before my wife was pregnant. Like before I'd even met my wife, I'd started to make career decisions and all of this stuff, knowing that fatherhood was going to be a really important part of my life. So I was thinking about it a lot in the lead up to it. And one of the things I noticed in my transition was there weren't many solid resources around for dads. Like there was kind of those books that are like, they're almost taking the piss a little bit about like, learn to change a diaper and all that like really light stuff and or just stuff that nothing with real depth or substance that I could really latch onto. I was lucky I had some men in my life that had been through that initiation quite a few years before me. So I lent on sort of just direct connections. But that podcast was a let's find out kind of thing. Let's find out what it takes to thrive in fatherhood. And what I've come to learn is you asked, how do you go from this glorious burden of fatherhood to thriving in fatherhood? And I think realizing that those two things aren't separate is the key. Do you know what I mean? It's not, when this burden is not here, I shall thrive, because it's, in my experience, relentless. It's something like it's with the kids, it's with the wife, it's with the business, um, it's relentless. And that's good because it's going to mold me into the man that I'm becoming. Do you know what I mean? I'd be not even half the man that I am if I hadn't stepped into this experience of fatherhood. And so it's leaning into the burden, it's leaning into the challenge in a way, because it's the resistance often that creates the pain, or it creates the suffering. Sorry, like there's pain. There's pain's a part of life, and when we resist that, that's often when we suffer. So it's when if we can lean into the challenges, to the responsibilities, um, and the biggest one for me is the high achiever. the perfectionist that wanted to just get it all right, like he had to eat some humble pie and recognize, you're not going to win every day at this, and that's okay. So yeah, that's what I would offer as a start point. Yeah, and if anything jumps out that you want me to dive into a little bit more, but yeah, that would be the main crux of it.
Yeah, it sounds like thriving in fatherhood, by your experience, requires you to recognize that you're not always thriving in fatherhood.
Correct.
And when you accept
Mm-hmm.
that, you actually are thriving in a.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like sometimes it's shit. Like sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's like, and it's almost like the process of if you pick any one moment, like I might have had a moment yesterday where I wanted to throw my hands in the air. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like, too hard, right? But if we zoom out across the week and across the month, it's like, yes, this is a beautiful experience. So it's like not getting swept up in those challenges and making sure we've got practices and perspective and people around us to remind us of that perspective. Because when you're in it, and especially the newborn, sleep deprivation, it's like shit is wild. And we operate differently when we're that stressed and that tired. And so, yeah, it's making sure we can hold the perspective and the context of the bigger picture and recognize the season for the season. It's like when you go through a rite of passage or an initiation, if you don't know you're doing that, if you don't have the context of that, you think you're about to die when you get taken to that point of the initiation. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, this is gnarly. Will it ever end? Does it ever end? And so being able to hold the perspective of this is a season, this is stretching me into the man that I'm becoming. It doesn't take it all away and just like, oh, well, okay, that's easy now. But it just, for me, it's provided the wall to lean against when I've like been tired through different parts of this transition.
Yeah, you're reminding me of something our mutual friend Ryan Pope, who was also on the podcast, talking about
Mm.
birth and parenthood. And for context, if you don't know Ryan, he kind of reminds me of the sea turtle in Finding Nemo. It's kind of like this very late, Aussie. I remember him saying something like, "Bro, you gotta let go. Like the quicker you can let go with all of it, the
Mm-hmm.
expectations, the acceptance of where you're at, like who you used to be." And when you talk about initiations, it's like a requirement that the old you and the old world
It's got to go.
disappear.
It's
It's
got to
all
go.
different now. You can't go back. And there's a part of me that, even as you describe that, feels the kind of fingernails clawing to like
Yeah.
hold it close.
Yeah.
Just gotta let go.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
relatable?
100%. And it's individually, but also relationally. I see this pop up massively in relationships because it's like we want to get intimacy back to the way it was or our connection back to the way it was. And it's like, that's not fucking happening. Like, you're not going back there. That doesn't exist. You guys are gone. Those versions of you, no longer. So it's like that letting go is just vital. And that allows us to put energy into what are we creating? Who am I becoming? Who are we becoming? And like, coming into the curiosity of that rather than the attachment and the clinging to the old. Um, and it's like the first episode of my podcast, I'm pretty sure the title was something like Redefining Freedom. I spoke with my friend Nick Perry because we were speaking about this exact thing. Because if your definition, if freedom is important to you as a man, as a human, right, and it's a high value, right, and you have a certain definition of what that freedom looks like, and you try to carry that into fatherhood, you're fucked because that version of freedom, it won't exist for you for quite some time. And if that's the only way I feel free, I'm in trouble. So we get to like redefine what freedom is in this season, right? Or whatever we value, however it was, we need to be open to redefining like intimacy. This is what intimacy was for us. Okay, what's intimacy for us in this season for the first 3-6 months of postpartum? and redefining that is a really important step as well.
So how have you redefined freedom? Like, can you give an example or two of how that process has looked in your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. So
You're like, bro, I've got a
the
hundred examples.
yeah, all the freedom that I don't have. No,
Yeah.
it's finding, and I saw there was a reel, and it was like it was waking up at 5 a.m. to drink coffee on your own before parenthood, and it was like, ugh. And then it was like waking up at 5 a.m. to drink coffee on your own after parenthood, and it's like, yes. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if I have 30 minutes in the morning and the sun's just coming up and my family's asleep and I can enjoy a warm beverage in peace, I'm like, I feel free in that moment. And it's like finding these little pockets, right? If I need being able to go on a 2 week solo trip, which I might have done once upon a time, that's not going to happen right now. So it's from a practical sense, it's like, how can I just touch it? How can I just touch moments of it, right? To just stay connected to my center, to stay connected to myself. And as you know, like doing the work that you do, a lot of us place all these external conditions on freedom. When I've got this much money in the bank, when I've got this much time available, when I've got this level of lacking demands from my partner, then I'll feel free. Yeah. And that gets to get looked at. And if you haven't already started looking at that, when you transition into parenthood, you get like clobbered with it because the external becomes even more chaotic, right? And so it's like understanding that personal freedom that we actually want, that we think the travel and the this and the that is going to give us, it's like that's within. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like such a cliche, but being able to find those moments, nature, super, super helpful, and just in those small pockets of time. And this is where like presence and having some sort of practice, like breath work or meditation or being able to just be present, because often and this happens to me a lot, is when those moments pop up, it's easy to fill that time with getting other shit done or thinking about all the list of things that need doing. And so I had this half an hour, this example I used before in the morning, but instead of feeling free for 10 minutes of that and just letting it all go, I was doing my to-do list in my head or whatever, because I wasn't present. So it requires that we have those sort of practices in place. Well, in my experience anyway, that's what's been helpful for me. Without that, it would have been a real struggle.
Yeah. It's just like reiterating a couple things dancing around in my brain that I've heard from previous folks. And one example was I had a guy on the podcast named Derek Sivers, and he talked about his small child and that they would go to the playground, and he said, I'm trying to cultivate a long attention span. And I never heard it described that way. And what he meant was like, I want to be the first one in the sandbox with my kid and some sticks, and like the last one out, like hours later, when my kid is just still totally fine and totally present. Like, I want the long attention span where I'm okay
Mm-hmm.
just being in it, whatever that is. And that always stuck with me. It sounds like you're describing something similar here.
Yeah, that's the same practice, but that's in connection with the child, because that's the other access point to this sort of sense of freedom for me is play. Like if I'm fully present with my 4-year-old or 1-year-old, it's like I'll feel free. I won't feel any burden. I won't feel the monkey mind. I won't feel the pressure if I'm actually present in that. So yeah, I love that cultivating a long attention span, because it's hard. It's so they'll come to you wanting to play, and you can see the pile of dishes. You can feel your partner's a bit stressed, and you're not sure what about. So you're trying to figure that out, and there's and then that work stuff didn't get done, and it's like undivided play for 10 minutes. You'll feel like these little time blocks. It's like set an alarm if you need to. I'm not going to do anything except play for the next 10 minutes. And yeah, I'm definitely no parenting expert, but that the feedback from the boys is just mind blowing. It's like, whoa, they don't need that much. Do you know what I mean? 10 minutes of actual presence. Sometimes it feels like they need a lot because they're getting a lot of 30 or 40% presence, right? But when you're actually present with them, it's incredible. And the thing for me is, I think when I started that practice, pretty early on, in my mind, I was doing it for him. I was doing it for Rafi. I was like, this will be great for him. And then what I've come to learn is it's actually way more beneficial for me than for him. Do you know what I mean? I needed that more than he did. And yeah, it's funny. And I had this thought the other day that you know how we've got our mirror neurons, and that's how we learn as when we're kids. Like, we've got these mirror neurons and we model, and that's how we learn behavior. I actually think the most important function of those mirror neurons is for adults to remember how to play again. If we can mirror our child, like, that to me is actually just as important as the child learning to do whatever they're doing, if not more important. And it's just been a funny reframe. I'm like, oh, I need that. It's not just for him.
It's interesting because there's a lot of inner child work, right? Like, what does the inner child need? And I'm reminded of, in high school, my mom was a preschool teacher, and I used to help out there in the summers and, like, here and there, helping the kids play and finger paint and learn to swim, etc. And I continually go back to that experience because there's just such a purity in, like, little kids when they're playing and when they
Oh
are
man.
full immersed in an activity. It is just this pure, playful presence. And we all have that. And then, as you suggest, there's responsibility and chores and to-do lists and bills and partners. And it's like, oh man, a good 10-minute play sesh with a little
Yeah.
toddler, a little human.
Oh man,
Like,
medicine. Like, and
medicine.
it is, and it buffers the stress. Like, we've had a huge year, like, so much going on, moving house, sick kids, building a house. Like, it's been massive. And I swear I don't, and I didn't burn out, got through it okay, tired. But I reckon I would have really burnt out if I didn't have the buffer of the joy of my nearly 1 year old. Like, 15 minutes of just interacting with that pure joy and getting, like, it's medicine. It's so beautiful. And it's this essence, it's hard to describe. But, like, when kids are just in that, it is, yeah, it's like, it's the point. Do you know what I mean? And as we get older and smarter, right, we actually just miss the point. And I saw a post, I think Amber, our mutual friend, shared recently. I don't think she wrote it. I think she just shared it. But it spoke about um, conscious or intentional regression being a hallmark of wisdom, and unintentional regression being a hallmark of, like, a lack of development. So being able to intentionally regress to the level of a 3-year-old and play at that level is actually a hallmark of wisdom and maturity. And whereas, like, the opposite, being triggered into your anger or frustration or, like, that unintentional regression, that's a hallmark of immaturity. And it's that just popped up for me as we're talking about this play, because I see so many guys especially struggle. Like, that playful part of them feels so far away, feels so locked up behind lots of barriers that, yeah, it can be really hard. They can struggle to connect with that aspect of themselves, and as a result, struggle to connect to their kids sometimes.
What are some of the more common issues or obstacles that you see in men when they are encountering fatherhood or families or
Mm,
the
hmm.
change? Is there common threads or themes that you see?
Yeah. So I would say one of the biggest ones, often they show up relationally. Well, there's two. Sometimes guys struggle to connect with the baby. Like, that's not uncommon. Like, they're holding it, they're like, oh my God, I love this thing. But, like, there's a struggle to connect with it. And then, depending on lifestyle setup, they might get 2 weeks off or whatever, and then they're back to work. So there's the practicalities of time. And the thing with men is, because women have massive neurological changes that are the trigger for those is physiological because they're growing the baby, they're birthing the baby. So that happens. Whereas men can have quite significant neurological changes as well, but the trigger is environmental. And so it's the amount of time they're actually spending with pregnant belly, present time with newborn. And so if they're not getting that time, often they're not getting those neurological changes, which help with bonding, right? So then it becomes this cycle. So that can be a really challenging thing because then it can prompt guilt or frustration or all these things because we're working harder than ever and we're not getting that connection. It's like there's no reciprocity because we're not able to connect and feel that. So that's a really common one. And then I would say the biggest one, though, is relationally, because once baby's born, all that beautiful, feminine, nurturing, good juju, right, that we get from our partners that we just love, right, and drink up, 90 to 100% of that is redirected to this little human now. And we're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, this sucks. This is hard. Even if we mentally get it, we're like, I get it. I'm not wanting it to be different, but I don't know what to do here. Like, what do I do with this? And because I find a lot of times men have outsourced their sense of intimacy to their partner. So they only feel that intimate connection when they're with their partner. And so they haven't got that sense of intimate connection with themselves. Most men don't have that sort of intimate connection with other men, right? And so without that, if it's something we need as humans, and if the only place we get it is our partner, we're not going to get it to the extent that we need it during this period, nor should we. And wrestling with that, and then the frustration, the resentment, and then it starts this like cascade because then the partner doesn't really know what's going on. So they're like, it just starts this cascade, and that's what I see create this relational divide. And then wrestling with that can be a very heavy burden.
Yeah, as you're describing that, I'm picturing an experience which I hope is common, whereby have you ever gone to a restaurant or like gone to pick up something to eat and then you get there and it's closed and you were like really looking forward to the pizza or whatever and it's like like no, no, fuck, right? I picture that of like if your partner is the restaurant or has been nourishing you and that's where you go to fuel yourself and then all of a sudden there's just a like, closed for maintenance sign out front or
Yeah.
they're renovating and you're like, no, now I'm just hungry and I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I'm angsty. I'm pissed off. I
Mm-hmm.
resent the restaurant for renovating. Like, just give me the
Mm-hmm.
pizza. And the
Yeah.
restaurant's like, yo, like, I'm raising your baby. So
Yeah.
I don't know what
I'm
to tell you.
100%. And it's I great analogy. And it's like, if you rocked up to the restaurant and they were like closed, but we'll be back in 45 minutes, you'd be pissed off, but you're like, okay, I can hold myself for 45. Like I know there's an end to it. If it's like
Mm.
closed, not sure when we'll be opening again, the unknown of that sends you into a whole kind of spiral. Like, is it ever going to open again? And when is it like, and then it's scared, like, and then our monkey mind just takes that and runs with it and turns it into something that it isn't. And so there's that unknown aspect too that compounds it, I think. Um, and
Yeah, I've heard that too with like intimacy and sex, for example.
mhm,
Obviously, that changes and that's different. And like you don't know it until you're in it. And so that's the
mhm.
equivalent of this restaurant, this weird restaurant analogy.
It's weird.
It's like, yeah, when the renovation's done, you're like, I don't know, we're like waiting on some contractors or like there's a supply chain issue. Like, sorry,
Yeah,
but we'll keep you
and it's
posted.
it's it's like if the restaurant was an Italian restaurant and they're renovating, but then when they open up, they're Mexican or Asian fusion because they've
Right.
changed. Do you know what I
Like, no,
mean?
I
They're
want the
different.
pizza.
Yeah, I want my spaghetti bowl, but because it's going to be different as well. So it's
Mm,
yeah, the part of us that wants to control and like what Ryan shared about letting go, the part of us that we've built this life and we know how our partner is, and we like to just keep things the way they are. You know, the part of us that doesn't like the unknown, it's like that's the part that we need to work with. And I think the biggest thing is like being able to communicate about it and creating space for resentment and frustration to be okay. Because that in the way that we do life as society in our little bubbles, right, in our little nuclear bubbles with usually not enough support, parenthood's gnarly. Like, it's not supposed to be done this way. So when people struggle, it's like, of course you're struggling. What you're trying to do isn't necessarily quote unquote normal, right? Doing it with the level of support. Your partner's not supposed to provide everything for you, yet you're expecting them to, right? And resentment will pop up both ways, right? We might, and it's normalizing the feeling without attaching to the story. So it's, I was working with a couple literally, I think 3 days ago. And the mother, the woman, was like, I feel like there's this irrational sense of resentment. It's like part of me wants him to have to breastfeed. Part of me wants him to, I'm resenting him, yet we've made a plan. We've agreed upon like how we're going to do this with working and childcare. And this is hard and I feel resentful that he can just leave and go to the shops for 45 minutes because I can't, because I've got this thing that I cannot leave. Do you know what I mean? Whereas most people, if that's expressed, then the partner takes it personally and responds, and it turns into this thing. Whereas if it can just be like, hey, part of me is feeling resentful, it's like, that's fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. That's very logical and sound and fair enough. And then it's like, okay, it's like, cool. I'm not festering in that anymore. Because what happens is these little things don't get shared, or they get shared and met with defensiveness, and then they become this monster and they just compound and compound out of control. And so like creating space to be able to communicate either with our partner or with a men's circle, with a women's circle, with a counselor, with a psych, like with a coach, to be able to share our experience, what's going on for us, and have it be validated and acknowledged. Like, it's an important part of the process.
Yeah, it seems like there's also an important, like, compassionate angle from the other partner, where,
Yeah.
but like, rather than being defensive or trying to change that person, to just think like, oh, well, if the roles were reversed, yeah, I would resent me too. Like, I'd be real annoyed at me. But like, I gotta live my life, and I'm gonna go to the store or go for a walk, like, you know, live my
Yeah.
life. So
Mm-hmm.
don't know
Yeah.
what you want me to do with that.
Yeah. And I think that it doesn't make, like, it, on one hand, it makes sense, but on the other hand, it doesn't. Like, because we might have agreed. Because, like, resentment is this feeling of unfairness. But if, hey, we've agreed, this is what we're going to do in the evenings. This is how we're going to tackle sleep. This is how we're, like, we've got a plan. We're both on board that plan. We execute the plan, and then one partner feels resentful still. It's very easy for the other person to be like, we agreed on this. This is what we said we would do. Like, da 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 da. Because we want it to make sense a lot of time. Whereas if we just, that part of us that needs it to make sense, we just put that to the side for a moment and just validate the experience. So I don't quite get it. I might get it. But even if I don't, can I still come to compassion? Because a lot of the time, especially guys, understanding precedes compassion. If I don't understand where you're coming from, it's hard for me to have compassion for you. And that can be a bit of a slippery slope because we're not always going to understand it. It's not always going to make sense, and it doesn't need to, for you to just acknowledge the experience that is happening.
Yeah, and it strikes me as one of those, like, both and examples, right? So I can both understand what's happening and remember that I agreed to this, and that logically, on the surface, this is all good and expected and okay. And below the surface, I want to rip your eyes out because I resent you and I'm pissed off and I'm emotional and I'm having this sensory experience that is
Yeah.
this irrational, like, volcanic thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Well said. And one lens that can be helpful for that, are you familiar with like internal family systems or parts work? Like,
I am, but go for it. Like,
Yeah, like
take
I
some.
won't dive into the weeds with it, but it's just we have these different parts. Like we have the inner child, we have the protector, we have our like true self, like when we're centered, like this part of us. And the lens I offer couples when I'm working with them is communicate in that way rather than I feel resentful that you're going for a walk and getting some fresh air. It's part of me feels resentful. Like part of me knows we agreed to it, right? But there's part of me that's raging like hard. And even that
Yeah.
subtle thing, soften like it's communicated in a way that's more accurate. Like and it's much easier to receive. If I receive, hey, part of me is all good. We agree. Like this is the plan and we're executing the plan. But part of me is just ragey and sad right now. I'm like, okay, that's a lot easier to be with than I'm resenting you right now. That's a lot harder to be with.
Yeah. I love that. One visual that I often will utilize for myself is like a large boardroom table with executives kind of sitting around it, right? And one guy's got the mic, and that guy's real loud and obnoxious, and all the other executives are kind of looking around like, "Yo, we gotta do something about this dude. Like, he's talking too long. He's not speaking for me, like, right?" But then
Yeah.
in normal life, that one part of me that, let's call it the resentment character, right? Or that movie Inside Out, I think is the other
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
You're like, that one, he's real loud right now. And like, this isn't all of me, right? There's just this
Mm-hmm.
part of me. I think that's a really helpful frame, Tully. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up.
Yeah. And
Um,
and the other thing, just while we're on it, that can offer a real buffer for that is if the cup is full with appreciation and acknowledgement, mutual appreciation and acknowledgement, when these blips happen, these resentment blips or these frustration blips, that's all they are. They're just blips. Because I know that you appreciate me. I know that the effort I'm putting in is seen and appreciated. Whereas if that's not there and we cop something and we're all the tank's already empty, that's it's like the nervous system. It's like there's no buffer. So as soon as we receive any feedback, it's trigger town. And then all of a sudden we're not even there. We're not present. We're not regulated. We're child. We're 5-year-old child having a tantrum, right? Whereas if we have rituals and practices where we are acknowledging each other for the efforts put in, for all of that, and we're topping each other up, then it just buffers things. So when the things pop up, we're way more, we've got way more capacity for it to not be an issue, right? And there can be this like idea in self-help land that like you shouldn't need any external validation. Like validate yourself, like know who you are. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And you're a human being, right? Like
right.
that's how we work. Do you know what I mean? It's like we get that feedback from the tribe and from other people. Like it's how we work. If we solely only have external validation, probably not the healthiest spot to be in. But to think we can get it what we need from ourselves only is just flawed. It lacks an understanding of how we operate. And so making sure we're getting that acknowledgement and validation, set up rituals so that we can be that for each other and go outside the bubble, right? The amount of times I've been in it and I've just gone to a couple of friends that are also dads and they're just like, you're doing fucking epic. Like, I know it's hard. You're doing epic. I see you. I see what you're putting in. That's all. And that was, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's all we need a lot
Yeah.
of the time. So it's like within the relationship, cultivating that as much as you possibly can, but having spaces outside of the relationship to go to. And again, that can look a million different ways. If you've got a good connection with your parents, your parents. If you've got a men's circle or women's circle, maybe you for this transition you get counseling once a month. So you've got that person, no matter what's going on, you've got a space once a month to go and have like it's necessary to have it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And even to reach out and to specifically to say to someone, hey, can you pump my tires right now? Like, can you
Yeah.
just tell me I'm doing a good job? Like, can you tell me I'm not screwing this whole thing up?
Yeah.
And being
Yeah.
okay with that, right? I pictured when you were describing that of like, I like when Kendra scratches my head. Like I'm a physical touch person. And even
Yeah.
if it's just a finger, I'm like those
Yeah.
memes where the child or the dog like puts it on their head, right? Like that's me. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can scratch my own head. I have my own fingers. Like I can source myself, but it's not the same, you know? Like there is a
Yeah.
difference. And so I think it is helpful to remember that we're human and we have needs and as you
Yeah.
said, like not too hot, not too cold, but just right, where you're not sourcing everything, but you're not sourcing nothing.
Yeah. 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 Because I just feel like it can be pathologized. Like having needs can be pathologized. It's like you shouldn't need that. It's like your wife just had a baby, da da da. You shouldn't need that. It's like, well, it's not that you shouldn't need it, but you shouldn't expect her to provide it solely. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference because often it's the need will be pathologized. So then we feel shame about having the need. So then we're less inclined to reach out and do something about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and
it's
so
like,
then from a like a new parent perspective, right? Your your partner gave birth, physically traumatic, healing, life changed, new identities downloading. They've been through the portal, they've got the codes. Everything that you used to have and live, the relationship, like that's all burned to the ground. It's gone. We can only go forward. So, how do you navigate those needs while acknowledging that your partner is not in a place to deal with those needs for a while? Is that sort of the like restaurants temporarily closed, like we'll be back in a few sort of thing?
yeah, yeah. And it's especially, and birth is so unknown. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've known people who had a birth and it was just smooth and they were back connecting intimately a couple of weeks later. Do you know what I mean? And then I've had some people who have had traumatic births and they didn't connect intimately for 9 months, right? And I'm talking about sexual intimacy specifically because obviously intimacy is a much broader topic than that. So I think the first thing is there's no cookie cutter because often there's be this like what's give me the plan, right? Jimmy and his missus were back at it, a month after. Like, is that going to be? And there's this comparison. So again, just letting go of any expectations because we have no idea how this is going to land. Like that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, and there's that initial period, like that 4 to 6 weeks, couple of months, where just no expectations. It's like we can move through a couple of months of just whatever, right? And then as things start to land, as everybody's back in their body after the experience, then it becomes what is available. This is what I would love. What is available? Like what feels good for you? How do you want to connect intimately right now? And you know, some mums, like, they're touched out, and so the thought of receiving touch, they're like, oh, yuck. I couldn't think of anything worse right now. Like, and at the same time, there's always something that's available. We're such an all or nothing. Like, are we having sex or are we not? Like, are we back? Are we back having sex yet? Or no, not yet. And the thought of sex might be really overwhelming. So I was like, nah, I'm not up for that. So I was like, okay, let's wait a week. Okay, are we having sex this week? Oh, nah. And it becomes this all or nothing rather than what is available. Okay, penetrative sex feels too overwhelming. Like, what is available? Is a foot rub available? Is a back tickle available? Like, what is available? And then let's just do that with no pressure or expectation. Because that touch, what that does with trust building for our bodies physiologically, it's building that connection so that these deeper levels of intimacy become available. So getting rid of the binary, are we having sex or are we not? And being okay, hey, I would love to have sex. You're amazing. And I would love to. And if that's not available for you, that's cool too. Because I see a lot of guys and women squish their desire and pretend they don't have that desire because their partner's not up for it. And that's not honest. Do you know what I mean? That's distorting what's actually there. Whereas creating the space where it's okay for this desire to be there and it's not there for you, what is available? Okay, how can we meet there, if that makes sense? So that I find is a good place to start. because it's the one percenters. Like, as you know, it's like change doesn't happen in like if we just stack little wins and we're touching each other more and we're having more present time and we stack those little wins, we're going to be more available for each other. We're going to fill those tanks and be more available. And yeah, going from 0 to 100 can be really overwhelming. And from speaking to lots of women going through that process, it can be really gnarly, scary, like fear. A lot of women are scared about, and it's not all women, but yeah. So starting slow and expanding our definition of intimacy. It's like using the food in the restaurant analogy. That's right. Like, we need a platter. You don't want a platter board with one thing on it, because then if I don't want to eat olives tonight, we're not eating. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, hey, we've got foot rub, massage, cuddle, whatever. Like, get creative. Put 15 things on the platter, and there'll be one thing that you both want to eat that night, and so you do that. So then we're moving towards more connection rather than more disconnection.
Yeah, there's a whole menu available, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that example. And I was also thinking, how does that relate? Like, is there a direct correlation to what you've described there from an intimate context towards a more practical, logistical context around cooking, cleaning, maintaining the household, doing the normal stuff that life requires, right? Because the word that jumps out to me is capacity when you're talking about intimacy or otherwise. It's like, where's your capacity at? And that's a word that Kendra continually utilizes. Like, my capacity is so low right now that like I can't be fucked doing A, B, C, D, E. And those things like she wants to do, but she's like, I can't, right?
Yeah.
And so is it just ongoing negotiation as the time progresses and as the chapters evolve, so to speak?
Yeah. Like, and I think there'd be, a lot of different ways to approach that. My philosophy is very similar. It's like, where's my capacity? Where's your capacity? And what needs to be done? And then the key here, though, is if this question helped us navigate this last 4 and a bit years with as much ease as possible. Obviously, there's still been challenges, but what support do we need? Because her capacity will be 20, right? And if you're honest, your capacity is only 30. But the hero in you that wants to save the day and do the thing and help her out is like, I got you, babe. I'm 100. But you're not 100. You're lying with good intentions because you want to be the hero, right? And you'll eventually burn out and get resentful. So it's like, oh, you're 20, I'm 50. We need another 50 from somewhere. That's not us. So it's like, what support do you need, babe? Yes, that's the question. And stretch our capacity, expand our capacity, like put in, develop resilience, grow, stretch. And what support do we need as a unit? Because we're not going to have everything we need, just the two of us. You're just not. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not how it works.
It's like a video game with your little life bar goes down.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, us together, we're at 70. So we need to, like, Mario, we need to eat the mushroom. We
Yeah.
need to figure out a way to get that bar up. And like that, I think, becomes a creative exercise, I'm imagining. Like,
100%.
who do we know? What can we do?
Man, it was it was more life changing than any retreat, any coach, any work I've done. Was having a meal train for our baby, and the receptivity of that, and me seeing the story of the part of me that didn't want to let that in, because I can do it. I can take care of it, because the way my business was set up, like, I could have lots of time, and I was like, I don't need you to cook. And then I just saw it. It was a really weird moment. I was like looking at myself being like, oh, damn, this is a moment. Like, and so I just switched and went hard on receptivity. Anybody who offered anything, I was like, yes, please. I even started asking people for things. And I was like, which it sounds small, but it was actually life-changing. And then we just got cooked for and received and nourished. And I'm like, this is the way. Do you know what I mean? And we were lucky. Well, I guess lucky and intentional. Like we'd cultivated a beautiful community around us, so that support was there. Not everybody necessarily has that in the moment, and if you don't, like prioritize cultivating it. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you need it now, you're going to need it in the future as well. And so, yeah, going back to that original question, it's consistent conversations around what's required, and things change fast. So you might have 4 days and baby sleeping well, and you're like, we are killing it. Like you got a rhythm, and you're like, this parenting thing's easy. What was Tully talking about?
Yeah.
And then baby goes through a leap. Kendra gets mastitis, and you're just like, the next day, the whole thing has exploded. And the plan you made about her capacity and your capacity and you made it yesterday, it's irrelevant today. So being willing to revisit these
Yeah.
these plans and like often, because things change so often, and we're in this linear Monday to Friday 9 to 5, do everything the same, eat everything the same every day, and it's just all year round in all seasons, and it's just so disconnected from nature and how we're actually supposed to live. And this time kind of like forces us to come back to a rhythm with operating in regards to what's actually going on around us, right? In the
Mm.
home, in that, like, rather than being like, hey, this is the plan, which can be hard if somebody's work is in that old system of like, yeah, 9 to 5, these hours, no matter what. It's like, hang on a second. So it can be challenging, like everything I'm saying, like, but it's, if you've got that flexibility, or if you can welcome that flexibility, or like you say, it's a creative process, big time. Like, how can we create the flexibility in some way, shape, or form? Because it requires it. Do you know what I mean? It requires it. Kids and even like women in general. Like I know if I try to have the same week 4 weeks in a row, Kat hasn't got her cycle back yet, but you know that's not going to happen. She's a different woman each 4 weeks of her. Do you know what I mean? Like, what a ridiculous concept. So just, yeah, there's this shift that needs to happen, and this logical, linear part of us that loves the plan and wants to know the way it is and just tell me what to do and I'll do the thing. Like, that part needs to evolve and become more adaptable.
I used to joke that plans are projected disappointments.
Yeah,
'Cause I was in this
100%.
free, this
Yeah, yeah.
free-spirited nomadic traveling
Yeah, yeah,
period.
yeah.
Like, I don't need a plan. That's just a projected disappointment. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. And
Yeah.
it sounds similar to what you're describing there of like, oh, that thing that you agreed on yesterday, like that
Yeah.
world doesn't exist anymore.
No. Yeah, and it's a paradox, because if you make no plans, you are completely roasted. You're done. So it's like, it's this hard, like being able to hold the context of what's moving. Like, what does the family need? What does Kat need? What do the boys need? What's going on? Right. So we're
Mm.
holding this context and this structure as best as we can. Right. And then within that, having flexibility on the day to day flow, or like it's this constant dance. And that's the juggle. And it's hard. Right. Because sometimes the thing the family needs is, I do need to go and spend the day working, because this day of work will create this space in a couple of weeks that we wouldn't have otherwise. So even though today's really hard, that's the decision that is actually best for the family. So yeah, it's challenging, because yeah, like the old, if you want to make God laugh, make plans. Like, so it's going to change, but without them, I'd be in a far worse spot. So it's like, make them, they provide some direction, they create some safety, and then be willing to revisit as required.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, when you were talking earlier about the meal train and the receptivity, I was smirking because literally 3 hours ago, I was on the website, made a meal train, sent Kendra the
Yes.
link, and then noticed as I was doing that, in me, the story was like, oh, this is good. Like, she can ask her friends, but like, I don't need to ask my buddies. And then I caught that story and was like, hang on, man. Like, what? what is that? There was certainly resistance to be like, hey guys, do you want to buy me
Hey bro, can
food?
you buy food slash or cook for me? Yeah.
A
And
hundred
if
percent. Even though if
anything,
it
it
was
needs to go the
flipped, like
yeah.
I would totally help my guys out. Like 100%.
And it's we get that in theory, and I feel like this transition requires an embodiment of it. It's like me asking is providing them with an opportunity to give, right? And yeah, and it's so, especially taking as much pressure off them. Like early on, I would have like, oh, get the women around, like get your support, and it would just be another thing for her to do when she's overwhelmed figuring out breastfeeding, da da da. So I was like, oh, I've got her friends' numbers, or I can message them on Instagram. She might not feel like reaching out for help. I can do that. Like I can send the milk tray. I can, like, yeah, where can I reduce the load, knowing that the most important thing for me as a father is the mother baby unit, pregnancy, early postpartum. Like that's the priority for me. Like me being the best dad I can be has far less to do with my direct connection with baby at that point as it does for the health of the mother baby unit. And so how can I, yeah, do what I can with, and again, what support do I need so that I can do that? And it's like, I'm going to ask for help in my business from somebody. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I just went hard with it. I was like, I need to flex this because it's similar to what you just mentioned. I noticed the resistance and I was like, this needs to die. Like this part of me needs to, like, so I just overwhelmed it with with receptivity, which was uncomfortable, but hey, the alternative would have
Yeah,
been
so
far
you
more
went from
uncomfortable.
erring on the side of resisting receptivity and receiving help to swinging the pendulum all the way the other side of this is super uncomfortable to ask for this much or
Yeah,
to need this much.
yeah, yeah. Because I could feel it's just like it's like the repeated exposure. Like that's how we, reduce fear, like repeated, consistent exposure. And so I just, rather than exposing myself over the course of 2 years to that many asks for help, I just did it in a month. And that
Yeah.
was just, that was just my approach. I could feel the urgency, I was like, the family unit is worse off if I hold on to this whole story of mine. So, like, let's get
Mm.
after it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, cool, it's uncomfortable. Like, not who cares, I was like, I understood the part of me that was uncomfortable, why that part of me was uncomfortable, etc. And yeah, what's the way through this? And just do that thing.
Yeah, it's a good example of some different parts of what we just discussed in that there's an old you, an old version with old beliefs and identity that needs to just die and go away so the new version could come in. And from that video game analogy, it's like, oh, I need an extra 30% here. It's like, oh, 2 for 1 bonus. I can lean into the resistance of asking for help and they can give me help and I get a full meal that's arrived. And now I can go support my partner, support my babe, and like
Mm-hmm.
life is good.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
man.
that landed.
That the upside is, and it extends beyond that too, because everybody's like, find your village, find your tribe, community, da 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 da. It's like, if you're not willing to ask and be supported and support those close to you at this transition, like, when are you going to show up? When are you going to ask for help? Like, what's more important than this? And so, if part of what we're trying to do is build village and build community and all this stuff that we all say, now's the time to put your money where your mouth is. And because it's such our brains are so plastic. Like what's happening for the mother and the father, like the baby bubble, the amount of oxytocin present, is like we're ripe for creating new stories. And so it's such a powerful experience to support and be supported. Like I've got a special place in my heart for all of the people that like really came and got around us, and I've got deeper connections than I could ever possibly have from because of what we cultivated in this experience. So yes, it's my capacity and it's my story, but it's like much bigger than that. Like it goes like if we're playing the long game of family and parenthood, then we need this community around us. Our kids need the aunties and the uncles around them. And it's like, this is the most potent time to start deepening the bonds of that. And so, yeah, I just feel like it's much bigger. And I'm not saying it's easy or anything like that, but it's a worthy challenge. Do you know what I mean? It's a worthy discomfort to lean into.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful frame or perspective to have of, yeah, it's easy to be friends when it's easy to be friends. And we can
Yeah.
go to the movies and, have a laugh and go golfing. And it's like
Yeah, yeah.
much more difficult to be friends or partners or family when shit hits the fan and I need you to show up for me in a meaningful way. And that's when the rubber meets the road, right? Like that's when the bonds are strengthened to
Mm-hmm.
continue what you said. So that perspective is, I think, that one's landing too.
Mm.
Um, well, is there anything we haven't discussed? I'm just conscious of time. It's already been almost an hour, man.
Wow.
Um, is there is there anything we haven't jammed on that you're like, Jeremy, bro, you're having a kid
You didn't
and
ask me about this. Yeah.
yeah, like you probably should know this before we head out. Uh,
um no, I feel like we hit all the main stuff. Like um
is there anything that you wish that you would have done differently or wish that you knew for the first one that you haven't touched on over the last hour, or do we hit
I,
the main thing?
I feel like we hit the main thing. I feel like as a general principle, it's I guess less important for that initial transition and what you're going into in the first 3 months or whatever. But as a general like principle, I see, and this is like a challenge that I've had to move through and still moving through, is it's very easy to stop prioritizing ourselves at all, right? We might do some push-ups and some squats, right? So we don't wither away or but like what do we love? What are our hobbies? And what capacity is there for those to still exist in our lives? Because I see so many guys, and I did for a period as well, kind of shelve all that. And especially if you get joy from your work, like this is the trap that got me. I was like, my work's fulfilling. When I'm working, I'm creating and I'm connecting with people. So I don't need me time because like work time's me time, and it's a fucking trap. Um, and so, what is that for you, and how can that still exist in some capacity? So, if you surf 3 times a week now, you might surf once a month, like in that first year, like, but don't not surf at all, right? Like, what is that thing? And I saw it referenced. There's a book called The Boy Crisis, and he speaks about the idea of like absent fathers, and it's not just fathers who aren't actually there; it's fathers who are there but not there, kind of thing. And he spoke about this phenomena. He called it dads that have got a sparkle in their eye. And what is the thing that keeps the sparkle in your eye? And make sure you've got that thing because your family will do that as well. And again, this is the other trap. What outside of your family is that for you? And make sure you're connected with that in some way, shape, or form, depending on the season that you're in. Because, yeah, I just feel like what our kids need is a dad that has got the sparkle in his eye. Do you know what I mean? It's like as much as they need the roof over their head and all of that stuff, it's like that is something that, if left for years and years and years, can be very hard to find again. And so, um, yeah, if I did something different, I would probably, and even fitness stuff, like what's a hobby outside of fitness? Do you know what I mean? Everything I was doing had to have a result. What is the result of this thing? Is this productive or not? If it's not productive, I don't do it. And so it's like, what is that thing? And have a little bit of that thing in your life. And again, for the first 3 months, you might do it once in the first 3 months, like whatever. It's just as long as it doesn't get swept away into a distant memory, because it can be hard to claw your way back I've worked with guys that have let it go for 10 years and they're like, I don't even know what lights me up. I don't.
Mm.
And that, yeah, it doesn't take much to not get to that place, right? Just staying tethered to it, connected to it. I think it's not productive, but it is. Do you know what I mean? And that's not
Yeah.
why we're doing it, but it can help those guys that are like me, addicted to productivity. It's like, oh no, this serves a purpose. It does. It serves a purpose that would be impossible to quantify, but you know, your kids know when you're operating from that level or connected to that thing, and you're experiencing joy that isn't dependent on them. Because a lot of dads, and I can tell when I'm in this space, is there's little joy outside of the connection with them. They light me up and da da da, but I'm not getting that elsewhere. So then what am I doing? I'm placing the burden of my joy on their shoulders, right? Rather than having some source of that's not just them.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That was good. Yeah, I took some notes too. And I guess the trap, just to continue that, would be you're just the restaurant of your partner's closed, and so you've just made your kids the new restaurant, and then one
Oh
day
man.
those are going to be closed too, and they should be closed, and they're kids. They're not your primary source of sustenance, right? So that's a little bit flipped too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but Tully, I know you've got a podcast, you've got a website, you got an Instagram account. Anything else for people to come and find you and get in your space that you want to highlight?
Yeah, that stuff. I've got a Substack as well called Liberating Love. That's more relationship focused stuff. There's a few sort of podcast, solo cast things on there as well. But yeah, that's the main stuff. Yeah, Instagram, podcast, and the Substack. And I've got like some free trainings and stuff as well that you'll be able to find on my website, mainly around like relationship stuff, really for anybody, but really with parents in mind. So there's plenty of free stuff there that people can dive into if they feel inspired to do so.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks for coming. This was super fun, super
Yeah, man.
helpful too. I appreciate your perspective and your experience and the openness that you bring to all of that. So appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for
And
having me, man.
look
Great
forward
to connect and,
to
and jam.
many
Yeah, I'm
random
excited
messages
for
to
you,
come where
dude.
I'm
I'm
like,
excited for you.
bro, SOS.
yeah. Yeah, we should do a 3 month in check in, and you'll be
Yeah,
you're like, dude, you fucking lied. This is way
you
harder than
fucking
you said.
liar. Why? You reference sparkles in my eyes. I don't even know what my
Yeah.
eyes are anymore, man.
Yeah, man. I'm
Well,
excited for you, dude. All the best with the transition. Yeah, we'll be in touch. I'll be following along and cheering for you guys.
yeah, chime in anytime. Anything you see
Mm.
shared from me. But, hey, man, I have an idea.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I
we'll do.
appreciate it, man. And hopefully we can get out to Australia at some point.
Mm.
Kendra's never been. It's been way too long
Ah,
since I've been there. And yeah, we can do it in person at some point.
yeah, for sure.
So that was my conversation with Tully, the man that cultivates and connects thriving family units. As mentioned, I put links in the show notes to various resources that he offers. If you go to his Instagram page, there is a pinned post that has all kinds of free relationship goodies. There's master classes, there's a podcast, there's a Substack, all delivered with an accent, which I love. And thanks for being here. Thanks for being curious. Thanks for supporting the podcast. If you know any new dads or dads to be, please do share this with them. Send it along with a little note that says, hey, this might be useful. This might be helpful. Good luck and Godspeed, my friend. And thank you for being here. Thanks for the 5-star reviews. Thanks for the support. As always, I am everywhere online at Long Distance Love Bombs. If you have any questions or requests, please do send them my way. I'm always open to hearing new ideas and perspectives. I adore you. I hope you adore you. And I will talk to you soon.